Hello everyone, Jesse Grimes here with OneHeartFire. And I'm here in Chandler, Arizona to do a permaculture project in this here backyard. This is my cousin's home, and they basically want me to design something and install something here just to clean up their backyard. They recently bought this home. They've got 2 kids. They want a good place for them to play and to grow some food, grow some plants, and just kind of a nice little landscape design, which I'm going to use permaculture design to design and implement. So like I said, we're in Chandler, Arizona. This is a desert environment, very little rain, about 8 inches a year. It's about zone 9 or 10. Occasional frost, but not really a big issue. And it's a different environment than I've worked in before, so I've been doing some different research and checking in on different plants, and different other people are doing permaculture here. So I can apply that to what they're doing here. I've already done kind of a client interview with my cousin and her husband to see what they want back here. Very low maintenance. Obviously they don't have a lot of time, 2 kids. And they're not really interested in the desert landscape look, so that's a bit of a challenge, but we'll have to work with that. It's actually nicer to work within some limitations. It makes it a little bit easier to decide what to do because it's not just such an open-ended thing. So let me just give you a quick tour around this yard, and so you can see what we have to work with. So this is their backyard here. I think it's about a 1/4 or 30 acre lot. Not a huge space back here, but pretty good size. There's these 2 existing pine trees over here. One of them's not looking so well, but the other one looks pretty healthy. Mostly just dirt in the back here. Not a whole lot of grows going on. They planted this lemon tree here last year, didn't do too well. And then there's also a lot of these trees that are coming up as suckers from these trees back here on the pathway back there. So I have to identify what these are so I can learn how to work with them. Obviously we don't want this many trees popping up in the backyard, and they are problems in other people's backyards as well, so that's another challenge to overcome. And then over here on this side we have a bit of a side yard area. They're thinking this would be good for their kind of veggie garden, just because it'd be easy to block off from the dogs. There's Bailey over there, she's one of the dogs, and there's another little one, but they like to dig, and so we need to fence it off from here. So that's one possibility there. There's a kind of a fire pit back here. It's just a little line here that you attach a propane tank to, and that goes underground into this thing here. So they'd like to be able to use that as well. The slope of the backyard, it's higher in the back here than it is by the house. And so they've told me they actually have a problem with flooding, so when it rains real hard, they actually get water on their patio here and up against the house. So we're going to have to address that. We definitely don't want water going towards the house. So that'll be part of my water management plan. Water harvesting. Big huge roof area up here. A lot of potential to catch water and store it, so I'll be implementing that into the design as well. But this is just a kind of a before picture of what we got going on back here. Some local weeds, dandelions, etc. Not a whole lot in space in place already, so kind of a blank slate to work with. One of the challenges is this is the only access to the backyard. It's this one little fence up here, this gate. So to bring any machinery or anything back here, it's got to be really thin and small in order to be digging up any of this stuff here. The soil here in Arizona is very hard, packed clay usually. There's a lot of these rocks as well, and my cousin and her husband don't particularly like the rocks. They want it to be safe for the kids to work back here, so we'll have to design something around that as well. So right now at the beginning of this project, I'm in the observation phase of the permaculture design. So I'd like to share with you some of the observations I made just when I was walking around making the measurements for the maps and just checking the yard out. First of all, you see it's a lot greener over here against this wall than the rest of the yard. I kind of feel like this wall over here, since it's going underground, there's a concrete footing. I think water is getting trapped up against that, which is helping this to stay a little bit greener than the rest of the yard. and or water is settling out here because this is a low point. It'd be nice to know which way the water drains out. I'm feeling like it drains out down this pathway here, possibly on the other side or possibly both. I want to get my level out and actually get some real measurements on the elevation changes here. But it's the same thing over on this side. There's a lot of, you know, these green weeds growing over here, a lot of dandelion and other things. I feel like that could be because of the water collecting against that. It also could be that, you know, south is this way, west is that way, and so this is blocked from the western afternoon sun, so it doesn't get all that heat. So it actually might be a good place for a garden, veggie garden, because right now the greens are growing here on their own. So if you want to grow other greens, other vegetables, it could be a nice sheltered place for them to grow like that. Keep them out of that blazing heat in the summertime. Could be challenging in the winter with them not getting enough sun, but it doesn't get that cold here in the winter, so it might not be too big of a challenge. Again, with that sun, with this being south, I did notice the other day when I was here that this wall right here was warm, especially on the back side where the sun was shining on it. So this could be a source of heat for plants in the winter time, and possibly in the summertime. I have to look up the sun angles. It could shade some plants in the summer. My cousin and her husband are talking about raising this wall up one more brick to prevent the dog from getting out. Something else I was curious about, whether these are actually suckers coming from these trees. By digging this one up, I think I pretty much confirmed that these are coming off of roots from these larger trees. This doesn't appear like something that would grow from seed like this. This one over here, it appears that it's been cut off before and is growing back next to where it's been chopped off before as well. So that's a challenge I have to deal with. Possibly just have to come back and cut these up every year, because there's these well-established trees and they're putting out these root suckers. So I'd like to identify what these are as well. A desert tree, they have kind of a single long needle. Reminds me of a Palo Verde tree I had when I was growing up, but that might be something different. As well as these two pine trees, I have to identify what these are as well. They do have, when you look at pine trees, you can kind of distinguish between them based on how many needles they have coming out of each little needle nodule here, and these have two. So there's two needles coming out of each of these. They're kind of growing in clumps on the ends of these branches. Let me see if I can find a pine cone. Here we go. And this is what the cones look like. So I can reference this when I try to identify this later. Hi, so I'm in the backyard again here. As you can see, it's raining behind me. And I was looking on the weather radar, and it seems like the big cell's coming this way. So I wanted to be back here in case it starts raining really hard, and I can observe and see what's going on with the water in this backyard. Also plan to get my water level out and check out the different elevation changes back here. But if I'm lucky and it rains enough, I won't actually need that because the water will be its own level. I can just observe, see where the water's pulling. That'll be the lower parts. See where it's not, see where it's running off. That's the higher parts. And then I can get a better idea of how the water's flowing in the backyard right now and how I might adjust that to capture some of that water and let it soak into the ground, help it water the plants, and deal with some of the drainage problems I got back here. So see what's going on right now. Obviously there's a lot of drips coming off this balcony here, pooling in this spot. I don't see anything flowing right now yet. Maybe a little bit down this way. But we'll see if it starts raining harder back here. You can see over here on this side of the house, there's this huge roof. There's a lot of water coming off that right now. So we could easily put a gutter right here and capture all that. The water's pooling over here on the side of the house as well. Like I said, I don't see it moving yet. I think the ground is still absorbing most of the water that's being dropped on it. So good news, it did start raining a little harder right now. Looks like it's blowing in. As you can see, the water is starting to pool up more. It is starting to come here onto the porch. That's that one problem we're going to have to deal with. Oh yeah, now it's really starting to come down. So right now I'm already seeing that the yard is much lower here next to the porch than it is in the back there. Ah, it's really starting to come down good now. Let's go over the side of the house over here and see what's happening. Look at all this water here next to the house. It's definitely low against the house here. Something we're definitely going to have to deal with. I noticed this here. There are a couple of open blocks here at this point in the wall, which I think might have been intended as drainage, but we'll have to see if the water is actually flowing that direction. Right now it seems to be, if you look right here, I don't know if you can see that, it seems to be flowing out that way at this point. What's going on in the back of the yard over here? So just pulling a little bit here under these pine trees. Doesn't seem to be going anywhere yet. So I can see right now, this puddle here that's forming next to the porch, it seems to be flowing over into this little low spot over here. So that must be one of the lower parts in this part of the yard at least. And then still a lot of water collecting over here. And it looks like that's flowing out the front. Run down through there and then out through this gate. That's good to know. So this is all just observation right now. The way all this water is flowing is pretty easily changeable in this yard because there's such little elevation change. So which means we can kind of direct it around where it needs to go instead of where it shouldn't be over here. So I can tell by the way this water is collecting that right here about where this crack is comes and meets the dirt. That's the lowest point of this porch. And so that's the point we want to keep the backyard from overflowing over. So I've got out my water level because I want to get some better information about what the high point in the yard is, what the low point in the yard is, where this water might escape. You know, we need somewhere that's lower than this for the captured rainwater to overflow, to spill out once the basins fill up. So I've got this water level. It's a very simple tool, and because I'm alone, I've just got this this one right here, kind of attached in this spot. Got some bricks to hold it down. But as you can see, with these in the same spot, with both these tape measures, the rulers, the water balances out. It's going to be the same in both of these tubes, the same height, because the water always seeks its own level. So right here it's at 28 inches. And so as I bring this end around to other parts of the yard, I can check the difference. So let's look like right down here. So here in the bottom of this little pit, it's about the same height. This is about 28 1/8 now. Over here, that's down to 27.5. So what's the difference between that? About 5/8 inches. It means at this point it's 5/8 of an inch lower than that point. So I can go around the yard and check these elevations and see what the difference is. So by kind of walking my water level from that low point over there over to this exit over here, I've figured out that this point is about 2.5 inches higher than that low point in the on the patio. So I only had to walk it over here because I don't have a long enough tube to reach all the way over here. But I just found equal elevations over here. I could kind of squish it down into the ground to find an equal elevation too, which is easy. I found out this is 2.5 inches higher, so that makes using this as an exit kind of impossible. So good news, by walking the water level again from that point over to this point and then down this side yard path, I found out that it does indeed slope downhill this way. So right here at the bottom of this gate, this is about 3 or 4 inches lower than that, than the lowest point on the porch. So we can use this as a drain point for the yard, which is nice. Gives me somewhere to get the water out of this yard. And then from here, you can see it drains down towards the driveway through this little trench on the drip line. It is pulling up right here in the front, which is unfortunate, but I think from there it'll flow off down towards the street. So speaking of the street, here I am out in the neighborhood, and this is something that Arizona, the Phoenix area does really well actually, is they have these kind of stormwater basins in all the neighborhoods, along all the roads, and they kind of take all the water from the hard surfaces through these curb cuts, and it collects in these basins here. You can see back here it's starting to fill up a little bit, but during a big monsoon event, these things, some of them fill up all the way. So that's really good design actually. You know, out in California, a lot of the drought problems are caused because there's so much hardscape, and even the creeks and rivers are concrete now, so the water just flows right out to the ocean. Here they don't have the ocean to dump their water into, and they do have flash floods on the rivers in big rain events, so they try to keep as much of the water from the neighborhoods in the neighborhoods to keep it from overwhelming the storm drain system and the rivers. So that's really awesome. But what we're going to do over in the backyard is kind of do this on a small scale in the backyard. So all the water that falls on the backyard goes into its own basins, and then those can overflow and come out here and go into the larger basins. And if everybody was doing that in their yards, they'd all be able to, you know, use a lot less water for irrigation, and they'd even reduce the pressure on the storm drain system even more. So this might not even collect as much water. So it is one good example of permaculture happening in a citywide scale, and it's actually happening all over the Southwest here. So that's one positive. Other cities, other areas have a lot to learn from this Phoenix area and what they're doing. So as you can see, I've been taking advantage of the soft, wet dirt right now to do some digging and uncover where the irrigation lines are that are back here, because I'd like to use those again to set up a drip irrigation system to help get some of the plants established. And I'd rather not have to buy a bunch of new PVC. I'd rather use what's already been made, consume less, not just dig this all up and create another piece of trash in the landfill. So I'll start the box over here. We've got three little stations here. There's a box right there. I don't think it's been used in a long time. This one on the end has a filter for a drip irrigation system, which is cool, but it's just capped off right there. And then these other two come together in one trench. Followed that over here. Here's the corner. Both go off that way. And then we split off right here. This one goes out to that sprinkler. There doesn't seem to be very many other sprinklers on this one line here. There might be more I haven't seen. I'll have to dig up later, but that comes over here. There's another T right here. Goes for a sprinkler over there. This was lucky. I just dug this right up. I found there's a T here that goes to the sprinkler over there, and this has been capped off at some point. So there might be a break over here or something that they decided to just cap off, but I can reconnect that or figure out what I need to do with it based on where my design's gonna go. Over here is another T, goes all the way to that fence to another sprinkler head, and then this comes over to this fence tees off. There's a couple sprinkler heads, one there and one there. So that's the existing system here, which I can work off of. My next job here is to go get my tape measure and map out where all these things are so I can put them on the map as well. And then I can figure out kind of a water plan for this yard. I'm starting to think that's mostly what I'm going to do back here at this point, is just get their water situation figured out, get the drainage problems fixed so we don't have the water here, but also capture as much of that water as possible along this back wall, along the higher part of the yard, so that I can seep in, water the plants, and help them grow some more trees back here.